We're live. All right, guys, welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mirshahzadeh. And today, my gosh, we have, I've actually been, before I even thought of doing the show, I was like, man, if I could create a show, I would do one specifically for this person who we have on today, whose name is the one, the only, Chris Ripley, aka The Rip. I will not even call you Chris the rest of the show. Your name is The Rip as far as I'm concerned. Welcome to the show, The Rip.
Yeah, would our show, if we did that, would it be about entertainment? I mean, or could it just be like one of those weird reality shows where you're like, people really do that? That's real? Would it be one of those, or would it be a little bit deeper, or both?
I'm guessing there'd be a lot of weirdness and there would be a lot of learning happening, which is what's going to happen today. I can't guarantee you the weird part because I think that we don't have enough time, although you and I only need like 4 minutes to get weird. But no. I think our reality show would be part like cooking show, part Kardashian.
Yes.
Is that
right, I'm with you.
Maybe a hint of Shark Tank. So, Rip. Okay, buddy, listen. A few things before we jump into this. We're live. So if you're watching, if anyone's watching us, start a watch party, ask questions, like the stuff we're talking about. And I'm telling you, there's gonna be a lot of stuff to like. There might be a couple of things you don't like. I'm gonna apologize in advance. No, I don't actually ever apologize. And I don't expect you to either, Chris. But look, guys, this is the Greatness Machine. And what the Greatness Machine's all about is about bringing together thought leaders and change makers who are creating greatness in the world. And I'm telling you, for those of you that are actually sitting down right now, you need to stay sitting and watch this because you're about to this is going to change your life. You're meeting the Rip. And there's only one. If you know the Rip, then I already know you're sitting down and watching this. If you don't know the Rip, your life's about to get changed. This is the first time you're ever meeting the Rip. So Rip, welcome to the show, my friend.
So happy to be here, man.
So I want to get a little bit of background on you. And so my team's like, hey, can you give us a bio on him? And so I wrote this bio. I wrote, Chris, aka The Rip, is my spirit animal. He is what would be birthed if the NRA, Motley Crue, and Elon Musk had a child with Hulk Hogan. He's a freaking animal in a machine. He's also about saving the world and creating sustainability. The Rip is one of a kind. Move over Kim Kardashian. What do you think?
I think it's pretty good. I like how much of a thinker that might cause in someone's head where they're like, the NRA, but he also wants to save the world and sustainability. Like, is that possible? Are you allowed to like guns and also not want to throw stuff away that shouldn't be thrown away? Is that, yeah, it turns out it's totally possible.
Right.
Although I'm not sure if I'm super into the NRA, but I am obviously have lots of guns.
But you love guns.
Love them.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I thought of it as more of how would the viewer understand your love of guns?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the Kim Kardashian, Hulk Hogan, Motley Crue mix. I mean, come on.
That's pretty much spot on.
Right. Let's go there. Let's go to Motley Crue because I recall, did you have a limo or a bus that was painted with Motley Crue on it? I have this like weird recollection about something like this.
I had a limo and a bus, and no, they weren't painted with Motley Crue. They were painted with Poison.
Poison. Oh man.
Because obviously Bret Michaels is a very important person and absurd character in his own right. What really happened was during my first business out of college went really well, and we were on I think maybe it may have been eBay, and we saw this bus for sale, and we're like, we need that bus. And so like a day later we had the bus, and we had this large because the business was a contracted business, so we had plenty of room. And so I said, well, what are we gonna do with the bus? Like, why did we buy it? I'm like, well, right, to go to the Poison concert this weekend. And then we somehow, some way decided that we were gonna have a bunch of spray paint cans on the bus. And in no time, there was the perfect cover art from the Poison CD on the side of the bus.
Oh my God.
Few weeks later, we bought a limo. This one's a little bit better though.
What year was the limo? What was the
I think
model?
They were both. So there's actually been two buses. So the limo was between the both buses. But I think that we bought the bus in June, and then we bought the limo in August. Then the limo survived the first bus, and then we bought the second bus 2 years later. I think it was like 2003. So one of the limo is a pretty funny story. So people, I'm sure, are all very cognizant of how much limos cost, especially that once they have 60, 70,000 miles on them. Right. Turns out nobody wants a 15-year-old limo with 60,000 miles on it.
No,
so
I
they're
would never
basically
guess
like
that.
They're basically like free. And so this limo was a white Lincoln stretch limo with a white boomerang on the back. Oh. The boomerang was the most important thing to me. Nothing else mattered. It had the boomerang. So then I was like, well, it's in Flint, Michigan. So we had interns. I went to Williams College, big deal for me, and had some football interns. So we sent Dolan, Mr. Dolan, we put him on a plane, arrived in Detroit. He then drives it. In the first 10 miles, the engine blows up.
Oh, no way.
So rather than do like, get back in, we don't need the $1,500 we spent on a limo. We got him to stay there for another 7 days in Flint, replaced the engine. So now we've got like $2,500 in this limo, but it's got a brand rebuilt engine. So then he takes off. About 50 miles later, the transmission blows. No. So this story ends up, he is now on the road in Michigan for 2.5 weeks, finally gets back to Boston. Great use of an intern. By the way, I'm older and wiser now. I was 25 at the time. I wouldn't do that again. But it's actually, if you ask him, it's one of his most formative moments of like, wow, he discovered a lot about the world in America. So yeah, that limo was pretty awesome. We had him drive us around and actually drive the other interns around all summer. If you've ever seen the chimpanzee driving the limo in Cannonball Run 2, that's what we were going for. Anyway.
Oh man, I love your stories. So Rip and I, we've known each other for going on 20 years almost now. And we met at a ranch in Montana, which was a wild weekend in 2002. But over that time, I will say this, like, one of the great things about doing a show like this is getting to talk about interesting things and introducing the people that I respect and love into the world. And you're a great combination of respect, love, and amaze at. And you've been an entrepreneur, and you've really, like, I would say, like, there's on one hand, I can count the entrepreneurs that I believe really have not only paved their own path both in business but in life, and you're on that list, man. Like, you've done some super interesting, cool things, and so I wanted to actually kind of jump into like what you're doing right now, because I've gotten a front row seat to Smarter Sorting, and obviously you've done a ton of stuff to get here. And if you want to chat for a minute about how you got into this, but I really want to dive into the work you're doing at Smarter Sorting, and then we're gonna talk about some crazy stuff. But let's talk about Smarter Sorting for a minute.
So Smarter Sorting, you have to go sort of root back to the roots here. So my dad, chemist, trauma surgeon, we had fun weekends blowing stuff up, like starting when I was like 7. Really understanding the physical world, like, beakers, putting stuff, foam, blowing up, heat, all that stuff was part of my life very early on. And nice. So really strangely, I have been involved in paint manufacturing since just after graduating college. Crazy. In the most old-timeiest way possible. Like there are no computers in the manufacturing facility. There's beakers and lab coats, and I actually have a few patents in that world. And that's not where I'm trained, but it's just I love it. It goes back to my childhood. Separate and having nothing to do with that. My first venture-backed business in college was about big data and how to solve a data problem that ultimately solved an arbitrage problem. So I've been thinking about big data and math and how it all works. And I've always had this like old-timey physics chemistry business. And then this new fandangled, we do big stuff with computers business. And there's probably 10 businesses in between those businesses I just described and Smarter Sorting. But Smarter Sorting came to me where I was at the Austin Resource Recovery Center, which is a place that people drive their Priuses. And I mean that. It's mostly people with Priuses that utilize these facilities. and drop off chemicals. And I found out that most of those chemicals get incinerated, even though they're brand new. And I found out that it was a problem with the data. So what we've created is this thing called the product genome, which is a way to describe things that a computer can understand. So when you think about, does my computer understand what this supplement thing is, what Monster energy drink is? Does it know if it's regulated in the state of California? By the way, it might be if it has selenium in it. It could be, even though all men's vitamins have selenium in it. It's like, how do computers process that? So we created this thing called the product genome. And now for one of the world's largest retailers, top of mind to everybody watching this, no matter where they are, they use this product genome to classify all products coming in that could be of a regulated nature. So about 30% of retail products are of regulated nature. And then they process 100% of products that are unsold at their stores, which is interesting that a big box store might go 10% of their products might go unsold, and some of that can be returns. And so what our product genome can do is figure out what a thing is. And then once you know what a thing is, you can figure out the best thing to do with it. And it turns out that the best thing to do with most things isn't lighting them on fire or paying for them to be buried in a landfill. I mean, this probably makes sense to most people. But like a gallon of bleach, right? Like the same gallon of bleach that you have somewhere in your house, I have somewhere in my house. We buy that for like, let's say $3.50 a gallon. That's a good average price. Retailers will pay up to $50 to incinerate it. Oh. And we're like, why are they incinerating this bleach? Well, it's got a wrinkled label, and they don't want to put it on the shelves. And it's I'm not, my point here isn't to say like, wow, retailers shouldn't be doing that. It's that there's so many products moving through their stores in a day. What else are they going to do? So our system diverts that to more beneficial uses. And so, as an example, we feed about 2.5 million people a month that wouldn't have normally been fed by this food that someone had decided, well, maybe this isn't something I want to donate, because again, that person in the back of the store, they're doing so many different things. And so we help products get on the shelf faster, and we help products get used that weren't going to be used for what they were originally intended. So
that's cool.
That's what Smarter Sorting does. And we, 52 people, and I think we're doing the thing that I'm really proud to be doing, which is making things better.
Yeah, that's that, dude. And that's really like the whole idea around entrepreneurism is in my book, at least, it's doing good, and even conscious capitalism, it's doing great by doing good. Right. And so it's this idea that here's this thing where I go into a Costco, and you were telling me about it. Like if somebody drops like a thing of wine or something, right? There's a bunch of old chemicals that they can't sell anymore. Like, what do you do with that? No, I don't think consumers think about that, right? That, oh, I didn't realize that they can't, like, what do you just launch a bunch of it? And no, you can't throw it away. Or if you do, how do you throw it away? Like, I don't think anyone thinks
let me give you like
an
interesting example. So like so much is sold now in a multi-pack where there's one item, there's maybe 5 items in a box that are different items, but maybe this is like a car care pack, right? So what do you do if you're a big box store and somebody returns that box that had 5 in them, now it only has 4 in them, and it doesn't have the complete package? What do you do with it? And so it's not a SKU in your system, because you don't have a SKU that's 4/5 of a thing that's incomplete. And there's many of the largest retailers don't do the discounting, hey, buy it for $1. And there's some states that also don't want that to happen, because they think that that's not necessarily the best thing. So then what happens? Well, what happens with that currently is typically it goes into a hazardous waste bin and is incinerated. But if you know what each of those pieces are, and you know what they could be used for, then of course you'd use them for that thing. But how are you going to do that at scale, 10,000 times a month at a single big box store location? You need either someone who is encyclopedic about everything that can ever be done with any. So you need a person who doesn't exist. Right. Or you just use a computer. The problem with the computer is the computers didn't know what the thing was before, and that's what the product genome will allow for.
Oh, that's so cool, man. So you guys are starting to get a bunch of traction. You guys you're VC funded, is that correct?
Yeah, we've raised right around $28 million.
Oh, that's freaking awesome, dude. I remember when you were raising the first one, like $500,000.
That's right. Yeah, I remember talking to you about it when it was still very much a napkin. So
I know, man.
it's
do
been
remember.
a fun journey.
Yeah, I'm so bummed I didn't invest when you're at 500 grand. I was just being cheap. It's not even that I didn't believe in you. I was like, oh, I don't want to invest in anything right now. And now
Well, it's also really weird. It's a really weird thing to like get your hands around.
Yeah.
Like the idea that supermarket down the street is spending millions of dollars to incinerate stuff. It's like, that doesn't really make sense. Or the idea that they don't know how to, like just another thing Genome does, that they don't know how to sell a particular product online because they're not sure how to ship it. It's like, well, of course a retailer knows how to do that.
Right.
It's just, there's so many little complexities that really have to use a computer for. Who knew? Computers, they're good things.
You're such an undercover nerd, bro. And I love it. I love nerding out with you because every time I hang out with you, I learn something new. So, hey, let's take a pause here. Look, you guys, obviously Chris is talking about some pretty like gnarly stuff, but if you have any questions around startup culture, raising money, VC, what it's like to be an entrepreneur in many walks of life, we're barely scratching the surface with Ripley here. But if you have any questions about starting a business, like right now is a great time. You got a lot of brain power on this call, and we'd love to answer your questions. So, like going back to startup life, one of the questions I have for you is, when we start these businesses, and my belief is, especially when you have, a hot company. I mean, you guys are considered, weren't you guys voted like #1 place to work or something like that here in Austin?
In Austin, yeah. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool award.
I mean, I saw that and I'm like, I know that guy, I'm like, I think I was pounding beers with that guy in my pool last weekend, and so, so I'm like, no way. Good. Like, kudos to you guys at Smarter Sorting. And I got the pleasure of being on a couple of your guys' strategy calls and level 10 calls, and really just seeing that you guys have an inordinate amount of brain power and some people that really care about the business. So my question to you is this, and it's kind of a loaded question, but my big belief is that core values drive all decision-making in a business, that they are the foundation for bringing on the right people, trying to get people to come on. I just wrote my book, and I think you're buying a few copies. You pay your bill, buddy. But no, I'm of the belief that that's how you get the right people on the bus, is by being explicit about your values, living them, making them come to life. How have you guys approached that at Smarter Sorting? Because obviously you got a lot of growth ahead of you.
Well, so I think if the next business I start, there will be a next business. We will start off day one, even if it's just me and I don't have a co-founder. The core values will be defined at that time.
Okay.
And they can evolve, but they're going to start on paper. That's not how my businesses have started thus far. Whether they start and the core values start with the founder or co-founders, and you end up, it permeates out to that little small group. Let's call it 5 people, especially if you're all working in the same office, which is like something crazy you can't really even think about today. And it's not a real big problem when you're working super close together and you're all sharing the same air. The moment that you stop sharing the same air, the moment that you get to that, and it might not even be the next step. You might have started out being remote, not started sharing the same air. The chances that that's transmitted tribally they go close to 0. And that's when I wish we had put them in. So for us, we started our core values at maybe employee 20, 25. Okay. And they should have started at employee 10. And, but they're great because we remind everybody of them often. And what's really cool is when we're in all hands meetings, and we also do this thing called tea time. We have time to talk about it. But we find out that they actually really, people grab onto them. And it's so interesting that it becomes a lattice that they grow from.
Yeah.
And so you don't have that thing, what are they growing from? Well, they're growing from something that they believe should be important in the business, or that they believe you think should be important in the business. And it's like, well, wait a second. As a leader, wouldn't you want to help direct that?
Yeah.
And that's what you can do with those core value statements. And that's how we've seen them be effective at smarter sorting.
That's great. So you guys, right now you're at 52. Like, what do you think? What do you, if you had to guess on your growth between now and let's call it end of 2021, what do you think you're going to be?
D, we are at the spot where we are at the 1 yard line with probably 10 retailers. And any one of those retailers is an opportunity for us to add 10 or 15 folks to the team. But there are a few retailers there that are world changing. You can guess who they might be from a name brand perspective. And it's nice that we already have one of those world changing companies that's using smart sorting for all of its products currently. But I see us being, so one of two outcomes in the next 3 years. We're either 5 to 10x our current valuation, and I think that would be a great outcome, but not the best outcome. The best outcome for us is that we're the world standard for how products are thought of by computers.
Yeah.
So like when I look at your shirt and I say it's a whatever, and I describe it as a human would describe it. Computers can do nothing with that. But if we can describe it by its physical properties, and especially when it comes to things like chemicals and food, we can move stuff around faster. I mean, we can just really change the world for the better. We don't have to produce as much. When we sell something, it's likely going to be the thing that someone wants. Just so many different aspects to it, and all while saving retailers tens of millions of dollars per region or per store group per month.
Wow.
And so we're pumped. And so I think that we'll have, and we've had pretty meteoric growth in the last 18 months. Mm-hmm. But I think we're really on that verge of seeing that larger inflection point.
What are you seeing right now and you and I talked about this during COVID, like early COVID times. By the way, I went to Rip's house and I'm not a gun owner at all. Like I've never owned a firearm ever. And I was like, number one, I'm going to apologize to anyone that wasn't able to get their favorite food in the supermarket in the first 2 weeks of March. I got that food. I was like hardcore hoarding because I was so freaked out about COVID. I have like 25 pounds of dry pasta in my garage. But I call Rip up. Actually, my next door neighbor, Tony, who's going to be on the show next week, she calls me and says, "Hey, Darius, you want to go get some handguns?" And I'm like, "Get some handguns?" She's like, "Yeah, I was talking to my friends in DC, and they're saying you should probably go get a handgun." And I'm like, "Have you ever fired a handgun before, Tony?" She's like, "No, we'll go to the firing range." And I'm like, "This feels real. This entire conversation feels unsafe." So yes. I call Rip up, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, do you have a gun I can borrow?" Which I'm sure you never thought you'd hear come out of my mouth. And so the Rip comes over and he brings me. Why don't you tell the story of the gun you brought me?
Yeah, I brought you the super safe break action over and under rifle shotgun combination Savage Model 24, one of my favorites. It's actually owned by another good friend of ours. I'm shepherding it while I got some work done on it. So yeah, I mean, it's funny though, during that time period, I had 4 or 5 people call me and either want me to help them buy guns or loan them guns. Yeah, it was interesting because I had to actually think about it. Like, I really think I love guns, and I shoot many times a month, and I shot at pretty high levels before in my past with competition stuff.
Yeah, wait, weren't you like, could I interrupt? Weren't you like the junior national champion or senior national champion?
I think technically I was the North American champion as a junior, but I was also, I was all American. It was a big deal for me as a kid.
That's cool.
And trying to think about, like, do I just hand people, I knew you were great because, we've shared some of those experiences before, like in Montana. But there were some people I didn't loan guns to.
Oh, okay. I feel really good now that I made the cut, but like it was awesome. You come to my house and the Rip brings me 5 bullets, right? He brings me 5 legitimate bullets because like you don't need more than that. And then he brings me like he gives me a bunch of these like little like 22, like they're almost like BBs. And like now you had the 22s and you had some like and there's like an array of guns of bullets. He's like, look, this is what you do. You shoot him with the little one first if you even have to, and you know, and then you shoot the shotgun, or maybe I had it backwards. But anyway,
No, I think what I said, just so for our viewers that might be losing their mind, is what I said is the shotgun probably just pulling the trigger.
Yes,
may probably get somebody away from your house.
You told me just to shoot
and you
at the
might
ceiling.
not, and then you don't have to shoot anybody.
Yeah.
What my goal was to have you not have to shoot anyone, which I think it should be everyone's goal.
No, I mean, I was, and then the funny thing is, my house has a lot of windows. You're like, D, listen, if the bad people come, you're gonna have to come to my house anyway because your house is not safe. So,
your house is your house. You take a few rocks, throw them pretty hard, and you can get into your house. I mean, where I live in my building, it would be much harder to get into my apartment. But of course, if such a time happens, you're more than welcome. You and your wife and 2 kids we've got plenty of room.
Thank you. I told Mariah, I said, listen, if it goes down and we're unsafe in our home because like supply chains fully disrupted and like people are starving and attacking people, like it's total anarchy. I said, we're going to Rip's house. And she's like, are we really having this conversation? And I'm like, yeah, we're having this conversation.
What a weird thing we've all lived through that wasn't, you're not the only person that had that conversation. And not about, I'm so grateful that Smarter Sorting was able to be helpful to companies during COVID because we deal a lot with supply chain, but it was tough being a CEO of a company that wasn't sure. I mean, in the beginning of March, middle of March, I wasn't sure what would happen. I mean, the type of conversation that you and I are having are pretty indicative of a venture-backed startup company having some problems. But we powered through it, and life's great. But it's nice to be seemingly on the other side of that. Knock on wood.
Well, I'll tell you, like we had some really interesting conversations then around being smart because the future was uncertain, and I have a lot of friends in startups, and like people look, man, investors get weird, man. They get squirrely when the world's uncertain. And right now, who knows still what's going to happen. But yeah, it was that was a really interesting experience. I mean, I use myself as a proxy. I said, if I'm getting a firearm because I'm really concerned about what might happen in the world, that tells you that the alarm should be sounding. Because I mean, I've always been a person that's like, why would I need one of those around my house? So I do owe that back to you. I still have it in my closet. But thank you for that, man. I literally told someone, my neighbor Tony, I'm like, I don't need one. I'm just going to call Rip. Like he'll loan me a firearm, So thanks, man.
I went to the loaner cabinet. It was stocked.
Thank you. It was awesome, but I have not shot it since. So I probably need a refresher on that. So look, guys, we're coming near the end of the show. If there's any questions, right now is a good time. You can ask about supply chain, guns, hoarding spaghetti during COVID. I mean, you name it, we'll answer it. Like I said,
terrible businesses that were started that should never have been started in my past and in Darius's past.
Yeah, if you combine all of our terrible businesses together, wrote them down and you can make a book of bad businesses. That
might be a pretty cool coffee table book. Like things that at one time smart people thought would work. Volume 8.
Yeah, dumb entrepreneurial ideas, first through 5th edition. So Rip, I didn't tell you this, but I want to start a TV show, and I think that you got to be a big part of it. And it's going to be like a reality TV show on business, kind of a take on this. But you got to. My request is that there's onesies involved. How do you feel about that?
Perfectly comfortable.
Is there any?
I think that also bringing on any guests and making them wear a onesie will also sort of put everybody on the same playing field, a playing field of awesomeness.
Yeah, like none other than that. So I had told my team, I said, I can't guarantee Rip's not going to wear an American flag Speedo. Had I made that request or a onesie, would you have obliged?
I think I probably would have worn a onesie if you had requested it. I don't know if the world right now is ready for me an American flag Speedo, although America. I do think one thing, so I'm calling you from my doctor's office.
Oh, no way.
I've taken health so seriously since COVID, and the weight's falling off me. So maybe we do a follow-up in 3 months and just do it from poolside.
Yeah, you're looking lean and mean, dude. Like tell me about that. Let's chat about that for a few minutes, then we'll wrap it up.
So I read a book called Lifespan by David Sinclair, and I got the opportunity to meet him. And crazy book, because when you first start reading it, you have to remind yourself that this guy isn't trying to sell you anything, and that he's a Harvard professor, and he's not just like, this isn't some weird late night infomercial. And he shows 10 or 15 different drugs in development that could all increase all of our lifespans by 10 years, but 10 or 15 that could each one of them increase our lifespans by 10, 15 years. Now he makes the point, it's like, maybe they all fail. Maybe all of this, what we've seen in the trials, aren't going to work. But even if one of them works, you've got to sort of recalibrate what you think. And so I was part of this mastermind group, and someone asked, like, when do you think you'll die? And I wrote down 81. Yeah, I don't know. Is that bad? Is that bad? Is that good? I don't know. But I wrote that down, and then we're like, okay, well, and so when do you start slowing down? And basically what would happen is, and as more people shared, you would see that people sort of describe this arc for themselves, that like they'd start slowing down, and then the question was asked, well, what if you didn't die until you were 100? When would you start slowing down? What would you do differently? And people were, first of all, some people like kind of refused to answer because like, well, that's impossible. But like, okay, well, why don't we we're allowed to pretend. I mean, let's pretend. And it dawned on me that people sort of stop prematurely. And we get into this mind space where we're like, okay, well, I'm gaining a little weight and I'm a little less in shape, but you know what? I'm getting older, so whatever, crack me another beer. And it was like, well, wait a second. If I stop all of these things before that 81, 82 date, and I stop the downward arc, or even just considering that there's an arc, and I just keep going up, what's the worst that happens? And you're like, well, you die at 81, but you're going up. Like, oh, that sounds pretty awesome. Well, what if you die at 60? Okay, but you're going up? Okay, well, I mean, I don't want to die at 60, but I like this idea of keep going up. So it's total mindset change. I think it's like definitely my favorite book this year, that Lifespan book. So I've just invested in healthcare and understanding, testing and understanding like this DEXA scan, which is so different for your body composition than any of those other things that tell you like BMI. My BMI I would still be obese if I were at 4% body fat because of how big my bones are and what my lean muscle mass is. Dude, like, well,
preaching the fire, dude.
Yeah. So I'm it's like, okay, well, I could spend my money on, something. I'm going to spend money on being healthy. I think it's probably a good decision.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm so glad. Like it's that you're. I mean, you're great either way, but it's good. It's good that that's something that resonates with you, because I think the minute you start having that, and you're talking to somebody that A, lost a considerable amount of weight, B, was in fear I was literally like, I'm gonna die young if I don't lose weight, and I took pretty extreme measures to do it, and so I can always appreciate when people want to get healthy. The other thing is, as our medical system, as good as it is totally discriminatory towards people based off of like arbitrary measurements. And so I think having, like a DEXA scan is a good example. Like I've done a DEXA scan as well. You can't like these normal vanity metrics, like, well, how much do you weigh? It's like, what does that even mean? Like percentage body fat is what you care about. Subcutaneous fat around your heart and around your organs is what you care about. Visceral fat in your, around your stomach is what in your midsection is what you care about. and the DEXA scan will do that. So that's I've done one at at UT here in Austin. That's cool, dude. Well, man, are you in Austin right now?
I am.
Are you COVID free?
I am so COVID free. Although everybody I know has COVID.
Everyone has COVID. It's the new thing.
So there's 2 restaurants that I frequent, and so many of the servers and service staff there have tested positive, and I have a list. I have one friend that passed in their late 60s.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry.
And I have everyone else, and actually our friend from Montana is the only person below 50 that's actually been truly symptomatic for more than 3 days. And most of the people that are below 35, besides 1 or 2 days with a mild fever, are 0 symptoms.
Did our friend from Montana turn out that he did have it?
Nah, we don't know, but
he should go get the antibodies.
Who knows? Because obviously, getting tested is itself so hard, especially from the antibodies test perspective. But I think it's probably reasonable given the fact that his other co-founders in his business also had it, and that
That's right. They're like the greasome threesome.
Bottom line is that the younger population of Austin, I mean, I think they're underestimating. I think pretty much they all have it.
Oh, look, man, when they lifted the shelter in place, even right before that, I saw people walking around like it was all good. I was like, oh, did they announce a vaccine that I didn't hear about? Like, it was like summertime, living's easy. I was like, what? I'm like, I seriously talked to my wife. I'm like, look, I'm not like crazy, like where I'm worried about every little thing. I'm kind of in the middle of the road where I'm like, hey, this is something to treat seriously, but it's, the odds, at least the data so far is saying that it's not Ebola, but worse than the flu. So I don't want to get it, but I'm also like not sitting there worried about like going outside. And I just saw people not social distancing, not just like partying, hanging out. And I'm like, oh, I texted my old business partner. I'm like, hey, this is going to get bad. This is a month ago. I'm like, it's going to get so bad in Texas. And I nailed that. I mean, it's not good here. So
not good.
We'll see, dude. Well, if you're COVID free, I'm COVID free. So
we're COVID free.
We're COVID free. Let's
like there should be a pool party.
You should come pool party at my house. We'll non-COVID it up. Not to make light of COVID because it is a serious situation. But you and I don't have it, so we can hang out. And then I'd love to see you, man.
Man, I'd love to see you too, buddy.
Listen, dude, thank you so much for being on the show, brother. I'm so proud of you for so many things, the business, the health. Just you look great, and I wish we could see each other more often, given that we live in the same city, but we haven't because of all this craziness going on. So let's make that happen. And look, anyone, if you have questions, where can anyone find you? Because people need to find you.
So I actually pay most attention to my LinkedIn. So Chris Ripley, Smarter Sorting, LinkedIn, that'll get you there. If you're a link junkie, it's linkedin.com/in/CB Ripley. But that's a great place to find me. I'm usually very responsive on there.
Yeah, we'll make sure we put your info in the thread. And so, dude, thanks so much for being on. You guys, Greatness Machine, this is our first week in full effect. Thank you so much for joining. We have a great week. We have 10 guests next week. We're launching this up, really getting ready for the book launch and just bringing on a ton of thought leaders and just smart, wonderful people that are creating greatness in the world. And I'm blessed and thankful to have you be a part of the show. Thanks again, Mr. Ripley. Love you, my brother. And everyone have a great weekend. Take care.